Very good. Distinguishing elites from the people. A call for justice, truth, and peace in Ethiopia. By Abebe on behalf of Ethiopian Hearts for Peace, EHP, and African Hearts for Peace, AHP. Today is April 17, 2025. In Ethiopia, the political landscape has been deeply shaped by ethnonationalism, armed factions, and ideological manipulation. One of the most damaging narratives promoted by elites is the idea that political or military actors from a certain ethnic group represent the views, interests, and actions of the entire ethnic group. This flawed assumption has contributed to a cycle of violence, collective punishment, and deep societal fragmentation. It is time to discuss this false narrative, recognize the difference between elites and ordinary people, and rebuild a peaceful and just Ethiopia. I say to you, elites are not the people. You see, historically and in the present, elites in Ethiopia have often used their ethnic identity as a shield, while advancing personal or group interests. For example, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, emerged as a dominant political force, especially during its 27 years rule of Ethiopia. However, the benefits of this region were not evenly distributed among all Tigrayans. The elite, few who occupied positions of power, accumulated wealth and privileges, while ordinary citizens in Tigray, like elsewhere in Ethiopia, endured poverty, underdevelopment, and conflict. Similarly, the Prosperity Party today is seen as aligned with the Oromo ethnic group, particularly through its embrace of Protestantism, sometimes Mohabism. Previously played both Amhara identity and Oromo identity, both Islamic and Orthodoxic. Right now, its close identification is with Oromo-centric narratives. Yet, the vast majority of Oromo people are not part of this political machinery. The elites in power do not reflect the struggles of the Oromo farmer, student, merchant, or laborer who faces economic hardship and insecurity. Political appointees are not elected representatives of their ethnic groups. They are selected for loyalty, not for representing the people. Many offend others through their rhetoric and decisions, which are rooted in personal gain or elite agendas, not in community values. The same goes for armed factions. The fact that Fano, Ola, or TPLF fighters took up arms does not mean they represent the aspiration of all Amharas or Tigrayans, respectively. One way to look at this is to see the number of fighters against the number of total population. Some say Amhara population, although not confirmed, is 30 million. Now, the number of armed forces in Fano, just by exaggerating, could say 500,000. That is nowhere near 30 million. The same can be said for Oromo Liberation Army and TPLF. As seen in the rise of Fano, injustice and genocidal-like actors often force communities to defend themselves when they cannot, to support defenders of that land, not because they seek to dominate others, but because they are left with no protection from the state. The economic reality is all the same: shared suffering. Ethnic favoritism and political manipulation cannot hide the truth. The economic pain in Ethiopia is shared across all ethnic lines. Take, for instance, prices of goods do not change depending on one's ethnicity. In Addis Ababa, where all ethnic groups live together, the cost of food, rent, and transportation has skyrocketed. Inflation and scarcity affect everyone, regardless of language or ancestry. Yes, the ruling elites might award housing or jobs to their close collaborations as a way of fueling ethnic resentment, but these actors only benefit a tiny number. The TPLF did it, now the Prosperity Party doing it. The vast population, whether Amhara, Oromo, Tigrayan, or any other group, faces the same burdens even during the TPLF era. While some families enjoy luxury in Addis Ababa from Tigray, ordinary people in Tigray remained poor. Farmers still toiled under harsh conditions. It's not the ethnicity that grants privilege, but proximity to power. Taxation is another area of economic injustice. Again, let's take two shop owners in Addis Ababa with the same goods may face different tax burdens due to ethnic favoritism. This weaponization of the economy to crush competing groups is a dangerous trend that fuels division and resentment. But even so, the general economic suffering unites Ethiopians far more than it divides them. In this manner, revisiting history is very important. Was Amhara the oppressor? We showed that the mass has nothing to do with the elites. But since the 1960s, Amhara was labeled as oppressor. Therefore, the constitution was developed in a reflection of that. Amhara was excluded. One of the most persistent narrative is the idea that Amharas were the historical oppressors of other ethnic groups in Ethiopia. This claim, widely propagated by TPLF and others, is not supported by historical fact. When we examine Ethiopian rulers from the 4th century onward, we find a diverse set of ethnic backgrounds. Sometimes it is very hard to distinguish those ancient kings, emperors, what have you, as the leader of Ethiopia, as this ethnic group or that. That is simply because it was all geographical. Izana of Aksum on the 4th century, he was known as Aksumite king, is likely of Semitic Giz origin, meaning his origin is somewhere in the north. He could be Eritrean, Tigrayan, or Amhara. Yakono Amlak is another notable figure from 1270 to 1285. He is known as a founder of the Solomonic dynasty of Shan background. They say Showa is a mix of mostly Oromo and Amhara. Then you have the Rayakob, 1434 to 1468. He is from the region of Tagulat Shawa. He is more likely Amhara. Libnet Dingo, 1508 to 1540, means 1540, is from Central Highlands, mostly Amhara. Susunius first, 1606 to 1632, is known to be of Oromo maternal ancestry. Remember. Iyasu first, 1682 to 1706, is from Solomonic line and has a mixed heritage. Theodros II, 1855 to 1868, is from Kwara of mixed Amhara and Komand and maybe some Ago origin. Johannes IV, 1872 to 1889, is Tigrayan. Menelik II, 1889 to 1913, is Oromo speaking Shan and maternally Oromo, and the other Amhara. And then you have Haile Selassie from 1930 to 1974. He is mixed Shan, Amhara lineage, Oromo, and some say Gurage. And you have the Derg, Mengistu Haile Mariam, 1960s to 1974. No, 1991, I believe. He is Oromo and maybe from southern nations and Amhara. And then you have TPLF era, Mallas Zenawi, a Tigrayan and Eritrean. And then you have others who are from Walaita and now from Oromo, whatever they say they are from. This list could have been presented to you better, but you can research on your own. Regardless, this list proves that no single ethnic group, including the Amhara, monopolized power throughout history. In fact, appointments in earlier periods were often based on education, military skill, or loyalty to the throne, not ethnicity. What we call in modern language is meritocratic. Amharic became the state language due to its developed script and literary tradition, not as a tool of oppression. See, in the early age, Orthodox Christianity was the source of education, who gives moral guidelines for rulers and those being ruled. And none of this was used as a tool of oppression. Amharic has its own alphabet, grammar, and literary canon, placing it on par with global languages like English, Arabic, or French. Trying to replace it with less developed languages or political reasons is not progress. It is regression. Now back to ethnic elitism in modern governance. Today's system of ethnic federalism and appointment of officials is based on ethnicity rather than merit, is a distortion of good governance. Consider the appointment of a field marshal in the Ethiopian army. An individual, remember, field marshal, the highest of all ranks in military. An individual captured in war and lacking strategic success became a field marshal simply because his ethnic origin. The appointment was not based on merit, clearly, but on ethnic loyalty. In older times, such appointments would be earned through achievement, not favoritism. This never happened before in history. If it did, it would have been a disgrace. No honor on this. This practice is not only insulting to the dignity of the military, but dangerous to national stability. Elites exploit their ethnicity to rise in ranks and protect themselves, while exposing their people to risk. As a result, entire communities become targets when the political tide turns. The human cost of war and elites' agendas is immense. Let's take a look at the war between the federal government and the TPLF devastated Tigray. Innocent civilians suffered mass displacement, sexual violence, destruction of heritage sites, and starvation. Yet it was the TPLF elite who dragged the people of Tigray into war, and it is again the same elite who call for more war today. The tragedy is that ordinary Tigrayans continue to be held hostage by these elites. They live in fear, poverty, and isolation, while their supposed representatives live in comfort and continue the war drum. The same pattern is visible today in the current government, which increasingly identifies itself as an Oromo government ruling Ethiopia. Such language is a warning sign. When the power eventually shifts, as it always does, the Oromo people risk being collectively blamed and criminalized. This cycle of collective punishment and revenge must be broken. We have seen what happened to Tigrayans, and we have tried to show what happened to Amharas. Oromos must speak out now. Yes, a lot of Oromo intellectuals are voicing, but not enough. The danger is real. History shows us the consequences of silence and complicity. If we are in this topic, let's discuss a collective punishment that must end. The rise of ethnonationalism, especially since the 1960s students' appraisal, has turned the noble idea of national unity into a battlefield of blame. This approach must end. Ethiopia has more than 86 ethnic groups, and none of them have experienced cultural erasure or linguistic erasure. All languages, cultures, and traditions continue to thrive today, despite imperial and modern governance. It is time to give credit where it is due. The Amhara people contributed to Ethiopia through military valor, educational leadership, and administrative experience. That's why many Amharas held high positions historically, not because they sought to dominate, but because they were capable and available. The suppression of Amharas today, under the false label of historical oppressors, is a moral and political failure. It's also wrong to reduce an entire ethnic group like the Tigrayans to the action of TPLF elites. The same applies to the Oromo people now and the Prosperity Party elites. Ordinary people are not the problem, elites are. And it is time to make that distinction very clear. So the way forward is that peace must be restored and the politics of hatred must end. Recognizing the difference between elites and ethnic communities is the first step. Justice must be pursued, but it must be just. Collective punishment, mass incarceration, mass killings, genocide-like killings, and ethnic vilification are not justice. They are crimes. They must stop. What's happening in Oromia against Amharas and non-Oromo speaking Ethiopians is unacceptable and has a consequence. So brutal, maybe worse. So Oromo now need to worry. We need to build a better Ethiopia. We must end ethnic favoritism in political appointments. We must stop blaming entire ethnic groups for the crimes of a few. We must respect and protect all cultures and languages. We must focus on economic equality, not ethnic division. We must hold elites accountable, regardless of their ethnicity. This is the message of Ethiopian Hearts for Peace, Ethiopian Hearts for Peace, and African Hearts for Peace, AHP. We seek a unified, just, and peaceful Ethiopia, one where diversity is celebrated and elitism is challenged, one where truth matters more than propaganda, one where no Ethiopian is punished for their name, language, or blood. Let's begin the healing together. Thank you very much. If you hear and follow this presentation to this far, you don't have to listen what follows. It is just added because it is a more expanded form of what is discussed. In Ethiopia today, millions of people face rising costs of living, unemployment, displacement, and violence. Yet, political elites, whether in government or armed groups, continue to speak as if they represent the will of entire ethnic groups. This is not only misleading, but dangerous. Elites and ordinary people are not the same. Their interests are not the same. And most importantly, the suffering of the people is shared, regardless of ethnicity. This essay seeks to break a common myth that when an elite rises, rules, or fights, they are speaking and acting on behalf of their people. History, economics, and moral truth all tell us the opposite. Elites often rise for their own power and wealth, not for justice or equality. They divided the people to maintain control, but on the ground, when a mother cannot afford food or a brother loses his shop, a father loses his shop, pain does not ask what ethnic group you belong to. Let's take a look at elites versus the people. A historical mistake is presented here. Across many countries in Africa, and especially in Ethiopia, we have seen armed groups and political parties rise in the name of the people. The Derg, the TPLF claim to represent Tigrayans, and the Prosperity Party today often align itself with the Oromo identity and promotes a version of the prosperity gospel Christianity, while also courting Wahhabist Muslims. But when we look closely, the reality is different. During TPLF's 27-year rule, not all Tigrayans benefited. This is a fact. A small circle of elites and their families, many living in the capital, far from the everyday life of farmers in Tigray, enjoyed wealth, jewelry, private celebrations, and access to power. Meanwhile, back in rural Tigray, farmers struggled, women carried heavy loads of firewood, and youth lacked opportunities. This pattern repeats today under the Prosperity Party. A few Oromo elites gain political and economic leverage, but most Oromo people face the same inflation, displacement, and unemployment as others. This shows a painful truth. Elites rise, but the people remain behind. When armed factions or ruling parties claim to speak for the Oromo, the Amhara, or the Tigrayans, we must ask, who choose them? Who benefits from their leadership? Who pays the price? Now we can see economics does not speak ethnic language. Ethnicity can be used to divide people politically, but it cannot divide the price of bread. Inflation, unemployment, and poverty do not favor one ethnic group over another. When the price of 1 kilogram of teff, wheat, or sugar goes up, it goes up for everyone, whether you are Amhara, Oromo, Gurage, Sidama, or Tigrayan. Take the capital city of Addis Ababa, where people of many ethnic backgrounds live together. A shop does not set prices based on ethnicity. If food is expensive, it is expensive for all. A storekeeper does not say, "You are Oromo, I will give it to you for less." The economy does not work that way. And yet, politicians pretend that their ethnic group is more privileged or more victimized. While elites may offer free housing or business licenses to their collaborators in order to create envy and division, these are limited cases. The vast majority of citizens, about 98%, suffer equally with other ethnic groups under high food prices, rent increases, and lack of public service. The other is the hidden inequality of taxation and favoritism. While the suffering of everyday people is widespread, the government uses hidden economic tools to favor its allies and punish its critics. One of these tools is unfair taxation. We have seen it happen under EPRDF, where TPLF elites favor the businesses and individuals aligned with their ideology. Imagine two shops of equal size selling the same goods in the same city, Addis Ababa. One is owned by a person aligned with the ruling ethnic elite. The other is not. What happens? They are taxed differently. The first may get exemptions, easier customs clearance, or avoid inspections. The second may face heavy taxes, frequent harassment, or even closure. This is not just corruption, it is economic ethnic favoritism, and it deepens inequality. This pattern is dangerous. It punishes entrepreneurship, silences fair competition, and creates anger among different groups. But once again, the elite benefits, not the people. What is the moral and philosophical truth of this? Category error and the problem of representation. Philosophers call this confusion between elite and people a category error. It means putting things in the wrong box, saying TPLF equals Tigrayans, is a category error. Saying Prosperity Party equals Oromo people is another category error. Saying Fano equals all Amhara is a category error. The truth is that no party, no armed group, and no elite speaks for an entire ethnic group. Even within one group, there are many opinions, dreams, and frustrations. Take, for instance, under Fano, there are different groups. People want justice, peace, jobs, and dignity. They do not want warlords and political appointments pretending to speak for them. Hannah Arendt, a wise political philosopher, warned that power only belongs to a group as long as they act together. When elites break from the people and rule only for themselves, they lose moral authority, even if they still hold guns or government titles. So what unity look like? An economic lens for peace is viewed next. Ethiopia's future must be built on truth, fairness, and shared struggle. We need a new understanding of unity, one that recognizes common suffering and common goals. We need an economy that treats people equally, regardless of ethnicity. We need tax systems, business licenses, and trade laws that support fairness, not favoritism. If we keep allowing ethnic elites to speak for the people and control the economy, we will never heal. But if we expose their lies and speak the truth that Oromo shopkeepers, Amhara farmers, and Tigrayan youth all want the same thing, we can begin to build peace. So there are voices from the ground. So here is a call from EHP and AHB. At Ethiopian Hearts for Peace and African Hearts for Peace, we believe in unity built from the ground up. We do not support elites who use ethnic labels to hide corruption. We stand with the people in every region who wake up each day to work hard, feed their children, and live in peace. We call on all Ethiopians and all Africans to reject the politics of division and the economics of favoritism. We ask who benefits when the price of bread rises? Who profits when shop owners are taxed unfairly? Who wins when hate is preached in the name of ethnic pride? Not the people, only the elites. So there is a new truth for a new Ethiopia. It is time to stop the lies. Ethnic identity must not be used to cover injustice. Armed groups do not equal the people. Political elites do not equal the people. Their wealth, their power, their access to media or government offices, these are not signs of public support. They are signs of privilege. Meanwhile, the people suffer together. They pay the same prices in the market. They face the same risk of displacement. They want the same peace. They carry the same pain. Let us no longer allow elites to speak in our name. Let us speak for ourselves together. Only by telling the truth about our economic and political realities can we move forward towards peace, justice, and unity. We speak this truth as EHP and AHP, with love, with clarity, and with courage. Historical revisionism, linguistic truth, and the scapegoating of Amhara, exposing the manufactured myth of collective guilt, is discussed here. Are you still with us? In the deliberately fractured political landscape of Ethiopia, the vilification of entire ethnic groups has become a sinister tool of division. Among the most unjustly targeted have been the Amhara, who for decades have been cast by political propagandists, particularly under the TPLF regime and its ideological successors, as a monolithic oppressor class. This narrative is as false as it is dangerous. It serves no purpose other than to justify the structural exclusion, cultural erasure, and economic marginalization under the guise of ethnic justice. To understand the absurdity of this scapegoating, we must return to the historical record where Ethiopia's monarchy and leadership have been multi-ethnic for centuries. Ethiopia is not a nation whose sovereignty was shaped by a single ethnic group. It is a product of a complex web of alliances, wars, treaties, dynasties, and federated cultures. Below is a concise but informative historical chronology of Ethiopian rulers with their ethnic backgrounds to dismantle the fiction that Amhara alone ruled Ethiopia. Number 1. Izana of Aksum, 320 to 360 AD. An Aksumite, Gez speaking likely of pro-Tigrayan heritage. When we say Tigrayan at around this time, it includes the Eritreans. Kalab of Aksum, 6th century, again is an Aksumite. Gudit Yudit, 900 AD. Agaw or Cushitic origin. Marra Takla Haymanut, Yukuno Amlak dynasty, founder of Solomonic dynasty, 1270 AD. Amhara or mixed Semitic Agaw descent. Amdazion first, 1314 to 1344. Mixed, spoke Amharic with Agaw maternal lineage. Zera Yacob is likely Amhara and is from 1434 to 1468. Libna Dingle, 1508 to 1540, Amhara. Emperor Galaudios, 1540 to 1559, Amhara. Sarsa Dingle, 1563-1597, Amhara. Susunius I, 1606 to 1632, Agaw Amhara hybrid or intermarried. Fasilidas, 1632 to 1667, Gondare, Amhara. Iyasu I, 1682 to 1706, Amhara. The Zemene Mesafint era, 1769 to 1855, ruled mostly by Oromo warlords. Example, Ras Ali II of Yaju Oromia descent, with emperors as symbolic puppets. And then comes Theodorus II, 1855 to 1868. He is Kwara Ago background, and some say not Amhara, maybe Kumant, but some say he is Amhara. Johannes IV, 1872, 1889, Tigrayan. Menelik II, 1889, 1913, a Shon Oromo through his mother and Amhara from his father. That is Menelik II. People are being killed because of that today. But look, he is also Oromo and he is also Amhara. He's not only Amhara. So why? Let's continue. Leji Yasu, 1913 to 1916. He has Oromo father, Amhara mother, and Islamic cultural affinity. So where is Orthodox Christians' dominance and also, forget it. Haile Selassie, first, 1930 to 1974. Mixed Amhara, Oromo, and Gurage ancestry, depending on where you look up. Mengistu Haile Mariam, 1977 to 1991. Ethnic roots from southern Ethiopia. He could be Walaita. No, I apologize. Mengistu Haile Mariam, 1977-1991. Ethnic roots from southern Ethiopia, likely Kambata. Then comes Meles Zenawi, 1991 to 2012. Obviously, he's a Tigrayan and Eritrean. Haile Mariam Desalegn, 2012 to 2018. Walaita, Amharic speaker. Abiy Ahmed, 2018 present, Oromo and Amhara. From this list alone, it becomes evident that Ethiopian leadership has never been ethnically uniform. The idea of a homogeneous Amhara ruling class is a fabrication crafted to marginalize one of Ethiopia's most resilient, decent cultural groups and to justify ethnic apartheid. Now let's look at Amharic, language of continuity, not control. Amharic was not imposed arbitrarily, nor was it adapted to suppress other cultures. It is selection as the lingua franca of Ethiopia was rooted in several practical and historical realities. It has a written script, the Ge'ez-derived Fidel, making it a strong literary and administrative tool. It has a rich classical and religious corpus, including theology, law, history, and poetry, and also astronomy. It developed into a standardized language across different ethnic regions, much like French, Arabic, or English. To argue that Amharic was chosen to dominate is to ignore the fact that Tigrinya, Afan Oromo, and other languages either lacked a written literary tradition until recently or were regionally limited in usage and standardization. Remember, Amharas are widely distributed throughout Ethiopia. Replacing Amharic with another language in the name of ethnic fairness is not progress, it is cultural vandalism, driven by resentment rather than rational policy. Instead, Ethiopia should pursue multilingual inclusion, translations, ensuring that major languages are supported without erasing the backbone of national unity. Artificial intelligence can do all of that. Economic and political apartheid, the real oppression. If the Amhara were truly the ruling class of Ethiopia, why then were they excluded en masse during the drafting of the 1994 Constitution? Why did Article 39 empower secession for every ethnic group except the so-called oppressor? Why were Amhara homes in the south and Benishangul region destroyed? Also in Oromos, their land confiscated and their people labeled settlers. Why were hundreds of thousands massacred without international outcry? I tell you what, Amharas that stood against colonial powers. Historical grudge is still there, lingering. The truth is, Amhara peasants, soldiers, and citizens suffered like everyone else, often more under TPLF rule, 1991 to 2018. Amhara were excluded from military high command, from key political negotiations, and from economic benefit. They were profiled, imprisoned, and killed for their identity, while Tigrayan affiliated elites ruled in collaboration with foreign powers. It is now Oromo's turn doing the same. Yet, this scapegoating continues today under new packaging, now with the Prosperity Party promoting a prosperity gospel ideology rooted in selective inclusion, favoring collaborators and punishing independent thinkers. If we say elitism has no ethnicity, are we wrong? Elitism wears many kind of masks. Whether under feudal monarchs, Marxist revolutionaries, or neoliberal ethnic federalists, Ethiopia has always been ruled by elites who use ethnicity as a shield and a sword. The oppressed were not ethnic groups. They were the poor, the landless, the voiceless, regardless of whether they were Amhara, Oromo, Tigrayan, Somali, Sidama, or Afar, Gurage, what have you. To accuse an entire people for the sins of a few kings or generals is not only intellectually dishonest, it is ethically abhorrent. Justice must be individual. Responsibility must be personal. And the reconciliation requires truth, not propaganda. In our final reflection, the courage to speak truth, the need to hear, is as follows. We begin by saying we cannot allow a manipulative narrative to crush the identity and contributions of one of Ethiopia's oldest cultural communities. The Amhara fought in Adwa with other ethnic groups. They helped preserve ancient manuscripts. They died for Ethiopia's sovereignty. They wrote in Amharic not to dominate, but to preserve and express. They suffer today, not because they ruled, but because they are now falsely branded as rulers of a country they built together with others. To move forward, Ethiopia must reject collective guilt, abolishing Article 39, and build a future on truth, equality, and justice for all, not just for Tigrayans or Oromos or Amharas, but for the fishermen in Afar, the herder in Borena, the priest in Lalibela, and the weaver in Konso. Truth is peace. Truth is strength, and truth is the first step to healing. In the following section, we could discuss more, but this video is growing big, so we should stop here. Thank you very much.